the new management of the National Service Scheme has, on the advice of Education Minister, withdrawn the appointment of staff employed in the final months of the Dr. White Pesa's administration. The withdrawal takes immediate effect. This was contained in a statement signed by the acting executive director of the Secretariat, Yusuf Mustafa. According to the statement, a petition was sent to the Public Services Commission regarding the infractions by the former acting executive director and his appointments. Most of the employees were handed their appointment letters on the 15th of December 2016. Right, Dr. Michael White Pesa is a former acting executive director of the National Service Scheme. Is joining us on the line, on the telephone lines now. Good evening, sir. We're grateful you could join us. So, did you and the board follow due process in the recruitment of these persons who are now being terminated?
Yes, and thank you, and good evening to your listeners and your viewers. Absolutely. There is no way we would have conducted a recruitment without following due process. Mind you, the board members, we have two very, very respected and senior lawyers on the board, and they will not at any point in time sit down to allow the process of recruitment, which is vested in the board, to be done without going through the due process. So this notion that the process was violated or the process was truncated or whatever phrase is being used to describe it is completely false. And I think what is going on is a mere, it's a decision based on mere partisan politics that is very regrettable.
We're also learning that the board ignored advice from the Public Services Commission on that matter. Can you confirm whether that's the case also?
Well, I think that it is quite unfortunate that anybody will claim that the board ignored advice from the Public Services Commission. Look, listen, the Public Services Commission in this particular matter has even erred. If you are the regulator of an agency or of an institution or of public service institutions in the country, and you have granted clearance to a particular institution to hire or to recruit, and one staff in that institution had written to you making claims that the recruitment process had been outsourced and he doesn't like it, or there were issues of promotion that were not honored, and the board had written back to you to say, well, on the issues of promotion, all the staff that were due for promotion have been promoted, and on the issues of outsourcing, the decision to recruit is vested in the board, and that includes the board taking a decision on how to go about it. If you are a Public Services Commission that is worth its salt, what you would have done was to have taken the veracity of the claim for yourself. That is one. Two, invite the staff who wrote the letter and management of the scheme to actually find out what exactly the situation is. Three, request a meeting with the board and find out from the board what exactly is the situation. Or come to the offices of the National Service Scheme yourself and then get the truth as it were. You don't just write on the basis of somebody's letter to an institution you have granted clearance to and ask them that just stop the process just because one individual has written a letter to you. In any case, in a letter dated 17th November 2016, the board authorized a response to the Public Services Commission. And unfortunately for the Public Services Commission, by the time we had received their letter, we had completed the process and we communicated same to them. But we also took the liberty of the letter to actually explain to them what exactly has been the process so far, and also informed them about the fact that the two issues that were raised in the petitioner's letter, the petitioner who happened to be the head of administration at the scheme, were completely false. They were fabrications. And let me also indicate that if the Public Services Commission was actually up to its work, when a staff wrote to you, you would have asked that staff that write to the board. If the board doesn't give you any hearing or the board doesn't look into your matter, then you write to us. All these things were not done. And then all I'm hearing is that we have violated the process. We have violated the process. I think we must
is
get
it that,
very, very
is it that possibly, Dr. Kwesa, is it possibly that the new administration is not, does not have in its possession some of the evidence or documents which you have? Perhaps you could present to them to clear the air on some of these.
Let me indicate that when we unfortunately lost the election, I took my time, together with various heads of the department, to prepare a 177 handing over note, 177-page handing over note for the new administration. I met with the transition team and briefed them and gave them reasons why the recruitment was done, because at the time it was being discussed in the media. And I also indicated to them that the scheme was granted permission by the Ministry of Finance to recruit not earlier than October, but not later than 31st December 2016. So what it meant, therefore, was that the scheme's hands were tied. We would have loved to basically, having gone through the interview process, to basically present them with a list and say they should just give the people an appointment letter, and then they would take a decision based on that. But the truth of the matter was that the Ministry of Finance had said that if you don't recruit before 31st December, you cannot recruit anymore. You have to go through the process of clearance again, and you go through 1.5 to 2 years to get that clearance. So really, we did not do anything untoward. I think that it is good that the media is discussing this. I will encourage the investigative journalists among the media that, look, go in and find out why are there some particular individual management members in the scheme interested in this matter. Because even before the new executive director and his deputies were appointed, they had already given letters to the new staff asking them to stay away. And this is the side of the story that is not being told.
So you think this is?
Let me also say that
this is
fully briefed. I just spoke to one of your sister TV stations, TV Africa, and one of the deputies was there. It appeared to me that they have been briefed, but they have been wrongly briefed on many of the things.
So seeing that you are giving us a basis why the recruitments were done legally, what advice would you give to those who have been affected by this new directive to withdraw their appointments?
Oh, I think that if my guess is anything to go by, the coming days will be very, very interesting. I mean, if I were, of course, I'm no longer with the scheme, and so as a private citizen, I can only offer my advice on radio. If I were any of them on radio or television, as I'm doing any of them, I would simply, ask my lawyer to look into the matter and then go to the courts. Because if you have to take people out of the public service in the manner in which they are doing, it is a very bad precedent. It's not good for our politics. It's not good for people's career. It's not good for people's aspirations. And we need to get the courts to determine what exactly should be done. If we go to court and the court says that what they have done is valid and right, then we all know that, great, this is fine. Tomorrow, if another party comes, it decides that it will sweep the public services clean and bring its own people, then we will know the kind of nation we are building for ourselves. Right,
Dr. Kwesa, we're grateful for your time. Thanks very much. Dr. White Kwesa is a former executive director of the National Service Scheme. Now,
some people resigning and then some also going on retirement. So the approval was given, that is on the 19th of February 2016. Again, you remember the scam, the ghost name scam and all that. So some
February 2016.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great.
Yes, I'm talking about the scam. Remember when the ghost names and then some people are even standing trial.
Some people are standing trial.
Yes, for some offences. And then also, so there was another request because some people had lost their jobs. They had been dismissed because of the scam. So again, on the 2nd of June 2016, another clearance came from the Public Services Commission to recruit 175 people. So combined, 207.
And these were done?
And these, yes. And then afterwards, you need to seek clearance, financial clearance from the Ministry of Finance before you can go ahead and then start the recruitment process. Now, all these clearances were
outstanding.
It was approved. They got all these clearances. And then the recruitment exercise started. Now, the first problem that they encountered was that now an emergency management meeting was called, and then they say the recruitment process is outsourced to a private firm, Zomelo and Associate, at the cost of 100,000 Ghana cedis. Meanwhile, the scheme we have a department for resource and administration. And per my briefings, from 1989, they have never outsourced any of their recruitment processes outside the scheme. So,
but outsourcing the recruitment processes is not illegal, is it? Is it not out of the scope of the laws of the national?
You need to seek clearance from the Public Services Commission first.
And that was not done.
Yeah, it was not done. And then there was the Director of Administration petitioned then, is it Reverend Peter Makadama? He petitioned the Public Services Commission, and the Public Service Commission wrote back to the acting executive director, in the person of Dr. Pesa White, to halt the entire process. Now, a letter or a response was sent to the Public Services Commission, and the reason, I mean, the summary of the entire thing is that they have a deadline to meet, because you see, the financial approval sought gave some deadlines that recruits the people by this time. So their reason is that because they have some deadlines to meet, they cannot halt the entire process.
Right.
And then they continue on with it. And again, because of the scam, as I've already mentioned to you, usually when you are recruiting, you give priority to national service personnel, and then volunteers, and then people who are in acting positions
within the system.
The service, yeah. And this was not done. So they also petitioned again. And I have all the letters here with all their signatories. They petitioned. And when they petitioned the Public Services Commission again, and then the Public Service Commission again wrote back again to the acting executive director to again halt the process. Again, it was flouted. Right? And then on the 15th of December, appointment letters were issued out to them.
So long and short is that all the explanations we're hearing from the previous administration about following due process, you are saying from the evidence you're presenting to us that that due process was circumvented to favor specific people, or it was done improperly?
It was improperly. I engaged Dr. Pesa White. He was saying that the HR department, they lacked the capacity. And for me, it was even bizarre, because it means when you have the entire, look at the enormity of the national service scheme. It is huge. It is big. It is backed by law. And then the whole acting executive director then is saying that that department lacked the capacity to recruit such people, especially when they have been recruiting people since 1989. I find this, I mean, very unfortunate and absurd.
And you think there were some suspicious motives behind the recruitments,
for me,
bringing in their favorites or their own
why would you want to go out?
Henchmen or
why would you want to go out and pay 100,000 Ghana cedis to an individual company just to recruit 205 people for you, 207 people for you? Especially when you yourself, you can strengthen it. And again, I've also heard this argument, one last one. You see, there's one argument that is also being churned out by Dr. Pesa White, that the Public Services Commission did not have the capacity to tell them or to direct them to suspend the entire process. But it's very, very, again, an absurdity, because you see, number one, you write to the Public Services Commission for approval to recruit 34 people. They give you approval. You again write to them to recruit 170 people. They give you.
And now
they are telling you to suspend it. And you are saying you don't have the right. And why then did you even write to them in the first place? Why should you even
Mr. Nanabachi, I know that this conversation will go on, but we have a very short time, and we're grateful you passed through. But we will do this a lot better when we have a lot of time on our hands, so we can explore the issue. So we're grateful that you passed through. Thanks very much, Mr. Henry Nanabachi, Deputy Executive Director of the National Service Scheme.